the meeting of the Upton Conservation Commission for February 22nd, 2023. And we do have a quorum. And so our 7 o'clock meeting is for 5 Fork Farms to discuss the irrigation proposal. So, who do we have?
Chris and Mary, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Dave. Oh, hi. Sorry, I can't get my camera to work, but my audio seems to be working.
Neither can I. I'm not sure what's going on. It's telling me it's connecting, but
yeah, mine too. But I can hear you guys.
Ursula, Dave, we can hear both of you. Okay. So, yeah, to represent 5 Fork Farms.
All right. I guess I can start with the latest update. Would you like that, Chris?
Yes, please, Mary.
All right. So at the end of the last meeting, we had basically kind of approved the concept with the idea that as long as SVT was okay with it and the DEP had considered it exempt, that it was okay. I did connect with DEP and they did say that they thought an NOI was necessary. They did a bit of research and sounded to me like they looked at other cases that they had dealt with, and they felt that because the stream and the existing land were not currently in agricultural use, it did not fall under the agricultural exemption. So DEP is asking for a notice of intent here.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And Grace, what is your update?
So I'm still a little confused as to why, and I had spoken with Mary last week when, Mary, you gave me this news as to how the determination of whether the land is not in agricultural use. Because in the woman's email, I forget her name, sorry, she said that the adjacent land next to where the pond, the proposed pond is going, is not in agricultural use. And I sort of beg to differ, as we do have crops growing there. We cannot grow in that area, number one, because it is in wetlands, but it is wetlands, so like you guys would have yelled at me if I even went in there in the first place. But like my greater point is that, yeah, we have crops all surrounding that proposed area if you take that whole field into consideration. And as far as I know, you cannot, or you should not be sub-segmenting little areas of a field to say it's not an agricultural production. Like, we do have crops down there. We have been using the pond, the existing pond right now to water them. So, you know, I would like a reinterpretation of where they are coming from, because if you even look at the site in a satellite image, you will see that there are crops down there.
Reach out to Mia at all? Did you talk to the person at the state at all?
I have not. Last week was just sort of insane for us, so I've not reached out to her. You know, it's one of those things as like, who is the authority? Who is the authority in making the decision? You know, like whose judgment is it to determine whether or not is an agricultural production? Because if you wanted to define what is an agricultural production, I would say we meet all the guidelines of that field being an agricultural production.
Right, yeah, and they are, and this is one reason we turn to them. They are the ones with the final say. Really, we operate under their authority, and everything we do gets reviewed by them. And so even if we say, well, we don't agree with you, which some members may not agree with them, they're in the end, they're the ones that make the determination. So if you disagree with their opinion, you really have to go to them and talk with them. And like I may have mentioned it to you on the phone, I think that submitting the notice of intent at this point, you know, you have the NRCS plans and stuff, you know, you're halfway there in the process. And so, and I don't think they will, because I think the DEP is more concerned with just going through the process. I don't think they will deny this pond, but they want you to do a filing. I think that is what they want.
And that's where I have complications too, right? Like, why go through all this process? Like, why more red tape? You know, like if it quacks like a duck, it looks like a duck, then it's a duck, right? Do we need to have people, you know, I don't even know, because in saying, you know, we're already halfway there. Well, what if I didn't have, you know, this is for the future. What if I wasn't as astute as I am and didn't have all these plans? And then now you're saying that you need to have the wetlands delineated. You need to go to an engineer for this. You need to do that. But I'm like, you know, just because we're already in that process shouldn't be the reasoning why we should have to go get an NOI, just because that is the, quote, fastest way forward at this point. Or I don't even know if it's the fastest way forward, because, you know, I have an issue too of like town council already saying it's exempt. And now sort of I, in a way, feel that the commission is sidestepping the town council's opinion and going to sort of seek a second opinion. So whose opinion matters the most?
Grace, may I say something through the chair? Your last point, town council reviewed the previous plan, the one that didn't show a stream diversion, that didn't show any impacts to what we call bordering vegetated wetland. I don't know if they've had a chance to look at the second plan or not, but I think their initial opinion was based on reviewing a completely different plan.
Whether or not
second, let me finish, Grace, and I'm going back to your second point that this is just basically just a paper exercise. I don't entirely agree with that, because I think if this goes through the NOI process, there may be ways to mitigate impacts to the stream and to wetlands that will be identified during the permitting process, either by the commission or by the NRCS or whoever your engineering service is. I personally have concerns that somehow if too much water is siphoned away from the stream, there could be downstream impacts on wetlands off your property, on the adjacent property. There's a large bordering vegetated wetland that stream passes through. And I think it's worth having discussion whether or not the detention pond that's being proposed will have an impact on that wetland. It may have essentially no significant impact. That wetland could be mostly supported or by a seepage. It's on a slope, and the flow from the stream might be almost insignificant to that wetland. But I think if we go through the NOI process, we'll be able to talk about these issues and maybe mitigate any adverse effects that the detention pond might cause. I don't think anyone here wants you not to have a detention pond. It's just that we minimize its impacts, and we also want to make sure that we follow the Wetland Protection Act regulations. And as Mary said, kind of our principal arbiter in terms of the regs is the DEP. We can go back, and the town could go back with town manager permission, could go back to town council, show them the actual plan or the current concept plan, and they may have a different opinion. Okay, so I would personally just totally disregard that first opinion from town council at this point.
Whatever the plan is matters whether or not we fall under the exemption, and that is where the question lies right now, whether or not the parcel of land that is in question is an agricultural use. Because if it does fall under agricultural use, then whether the pond is situated 100 feet to the right in the same orientation, it should not matter.
Chris, this is Chris Scott. I just wanted to mention that the commission reports to the DEP. So whatever their opinion is, we report to them. So we cannot go against what they're saying. And definitely whatever plan that you're going to use is one that needs to be forwarded to the town council and needs to be part of the DEP's review. So we cannot go against the DEP, because we do report to them. So whether it's something that is not favorable, we definitely do want to see a project go through, but it does have to go through us and through the DEP. So we cannot go against the DEP. And they are the ones that ultimately protect the Wetlands Protection Act. So we can't go past that.
Okay, so would you recommend, because this is also sight unseen, right? We could, on a plan, you can't really tell if the underlying issue is whether or not where the pond is going to go or in that area is in agricultural use. Would it be not pertinent for the person who is reviewing it to actually see the area in question? That's sort of my point, is how does one make this determination just by, a 2D site plan?
Well, I think the major part right now is to get the notice of intent filed, and then the DEP moves forward with their review of the whole project. And then they would have to figure out if they're going to go out and look, or if they're going to rely on the Conservation Commission to do the on-site review. And that's scary.
So my question is, if it falls under agricultural exemption, then no NOI even needs to be filed. Is that not, is my understanding incorrect about this?
Yeah, so, but they're the DEP interprets, they're interpreting the rules. So you really, if you want them to look at the aerials, and I think Mia did a little bit of research, and she did invite, please have the applicant talk to me. I think you really need to talk with her, and maybe there's something you can say, I don't know, that would change her mind. But from what she looked at and what I explained to her on the phone, she thought that it needed a filing. So that was, I gave her the same information except, the updated plan that I gave to the town council. So
I have a question. Does being designated, if it's designated agricultural and exempt, does that provide Grace with any advantage over filing an NOI and also being allowed to do this? Like, does filing the NOI strengthen her, just her proposal in any way, or is it really, just a matter of interpretation right now, and it's not going to impact the strength of, I guess maybe the holding up legally against, anything that might happen, if there is some problem down the road. Mary, I'm not sure I'm even making myself clear, but I'm just trying to figure out if there's some advantage to filing an NOI, just to, cross the T's and dot the I's and have that under your belt.
Yeah, well, Yeah, I see your point, Marcella. You're saying if there were anything to come up, they would know for sure that they had gone through the proper processes.
Right, but does having the agricultural exemption provide them with that too?
Right, so the agricultural exemption, and I may still be a little fuzzy on this, from what I understood from Mia was that the pond would be allowed, okay, because it was an agricultural use, but the filing was required to prevent, like Mike explained, to mitigate any impacts to the stream. Okay, so I think it's like, and to me, this is a little fuzzy. So, the actual work may be exempt from us saying you can't build the pond, which the commission, maybe that could be, we can't, I don't think we can say you can't do it, but we have to work with, but we can require the filing to mitigate damages to the wetland, is kind of how I understood Mia interpreting it. But
so
that
would be protecting our
Hey, Mary. Oh, I'm sorry.
as a town.
Mary, could I just bear with me when I want to read something right from the regs? This might help explain. This is from the DEP regs. Land in agricultural use means land within resource areas or the buffer zone presently and primarily used in a manner related to producing or raising commodities. I left out a few words, and it goes on quite a bit. But I think the key words for me are land within resource areas or the buffer zone presently and primarily used to produce goods. So the wetland areas on your property, which could be impacted by this project, are not, as far as I can see, presently and primarily being used for agriculture. So I think that's where you trip up in terms of needing an NOI, in my opinion.
Well, what kind of proximity do you need to agriculture? Because that, if you look to the other side of the field, they've got rows of plantings. They've got the greenhouse, and that sounds like active agriculture to me.
Well, sure, there's active agriculture very close to the pond, but in defining whether or not something is an agricultural use and therefore exempt from the Wetland Protection Act, again, as I read it, that area has to be presently and primarily used to produce commodities. So in other words, if Five Forks Farm was growing blueberries or cranberries or something like that in that wetland, a commodity or a crop, it would be exempt. But since it's just a wetland, basically a natural wetland, I don't think it's exempt. And I think that's where the DEP is coming from.
So this is talking about the land that's actually going to be converted into a pond rather than looking at the entire property on, or however it's divided. But so
correct. This is the impact of the pond and the proposed water diversion.
Got it.
That's how I look at it, folks.
With that said, this is Chris. I wanted to mention that where time is in the essence for Grace's farm, I think the most expedient thing to do is file an NOI, and that's getting that process rolling would buy you some time to get filing started. So that way, when that gets started, then the amount of time to get your project approved would be shorter. But the longer that we wait, or you wait, to get the NOI in process, the longer it will take this to get done. And that might affect your growing season. So I would think that starting the NOI would be in the best interest of getting this approval. So that way you can get the information you need from the DEP and from the Conservation Commission, So that way it would be wrapped up in enough time for you to get everything done so you can start the growing season.
Like I'm looking at the information to even get the NOI done right now, and this is already going to be basically a month-long process as far as I look at it, which to me is already, we're already missing the window at which this pond needs to be made and collecting the water and such. That's where I'm saying, yes, I agree. Time is of the essence. And if I could start this tomorrow, we probably would start this tomorrow. And it's being hung up, already. And it's, I'm just trying to get water to water our existing farm. Or our existing plantings. It's not even, every little thing right now. And like, I feel like this is not a big ask. I've worked with NRCS, and with them, they are already doing all the least, the reason it's there is because the professionals have deemed it the least impactful way to get the water that we need for the farm to even exist at this point. And so whether or not we go through the NOI or not, it's like, okay, what else? What else is going to come down the line in a month from now once this is starting to get reviewed?
Well, Grace, the one good thing is you've already contacted NRCS. You already have the plans developed. So then what would be the next part is getting the NOI done. So that way the box can be checked with the DEP and the final review can be done. So with that final review, you're right, it probably would take about a month, but you have all the other work done and then it can get moving forward. So that's the best recommendation I can make. And we do have someone from SVT here. That's Kristen O'Brien. So we should probably hear from her while she's here.
Yeah, hi. So I just want to say that we are in full support of the retention pond. In many instances on our own properties where we lease out to farmers or other CRs where we have agricultural properties, we heavily rely on NRCS and their recommendations. So I'm going to trust that the experts are suggesting the most ecologically appropriate location for this pond, and also one that's going to be able to support a farm. And I also just had a clarifying question for you guys. So Mia was stating that because there's already agricultural uses on the property, the pond is allowed because it's an agricultural use. But is she saying that is an NOI required just because of the location of the pond? Because I don't see if we're as strict with the terms of the exemption, Grace would have to be in the stream bank for us to meet that really strict interpretation of the exemption. So would there be an instance where I guess I'm struggling with the very strict interpretation of the exemption. And Grace, I don't know if it would be a benefit to speak directly with Mia.
Right.
I have worked with her in the past. She's very nice and good to work with, so I think she'd be open to discussion. But I think that's worth clarifying with her, kind of these questions.
Could we put a conditional, like, if Grace is to talk to Mia and Mia sees Grace's point and agrees with it, could we just go ahead and approve it conditional on Mia's determination that it is okay, and save Grace having to come back to us for another vote?
Well, we've, just last week we approved the detention pond related to our responsibilities for the conservation restriction, as at SVT. One thing to do might be to have Five Forks Farm file a request for determination. And that would basically, then the commission would have a chance to review whatever information was provided and make a determination in writing whether or not an NOI was needed. And then the DEP could provide comments. We could make sure that the DEP provided comments on that request for determination. Now, it's going to take time. Grace, it's hard for us to do any NOI, from the public hearing to the end of the process in less than 1 to 2 months. And so it's not a 1 month process. It's more like probably a 2 month process, even for a simple like septic repair or something. So I sorry, but I think, if the commission decides we need to take a hard regulatory look at this and follow DP's current guidance, it's going to take time, and you probably won't be able to build that pond for this growing season. We can rely on the existing pond as much as possible, but just the timing. It's already February. It would be tough, and it's going to take time to build a pond. And get a let alone permitting process. So anyway, I just want to throw that out. Request for determination might be a way for everyone to get on paper as to whether or not a notice of intent is required.
So the request for determination, that would be burdensome way to get this started and rolling along. And the one, I would say, caution is that if the request for determination was filed and it was determined that you need a notice of intent, then that's going to take the time a little bit further. But at least you're all rolling.
Yeah, that was my concern too. If we ever file that and the state says, well, we need an NOI, you're just set back even further. I think the best thing for Grace, it's just my opinion, is you should call Mia directly and see if you can get anything from her. I mean, I think it's obvious we're willing to work with you, but like Chris said, they're our boss. I mean, they determine the rules, and our job is to implement that and follow them. So if you could speak to her directly, maybe that will help you, and maybe we can move it along, because we all do want to see you get your pond. We all want to see your farm be successful, but we can't, we're not in a position to, and I'll say this, I personally would not try to override what DEP said or the request for NOI. So I do wish you the best, but I think maybe if you call her directly, that might be your best bet.
So I just need to get it in writing that, and if she says A-okay, I do not need to come back to you, or?
Yeah, my understanding was last week we provisionally approved everything if the DEP was okay with it and SVT was okay with it. Yeah.
Great. So I would say is after you talk to Mia, forward up the email to her, and then get her to respond back to you in writing. So then you have a paper trail for you in writing. That's
Sorry, Chris, I can't quite hear what you're saying. I don't know.
Let me try again. I think the best thing to do would be to call her, follow up an email to her. So that way, you have a paper trail that you can forward to us. So that way, you have a paper trail to follow your conversation with her. So, paper trail is very important. Can you hear me now?
Chris, I couldn't really hear what you said.
Like, what I'm saying is that the best thing to do for Grace would be to call Mia and follow up the discussion with an email to her and then have her response. So that would be the paper trail that can be forwarded to the commission. And that paper trail would then be proof of what Mia says about the discussion. So rather than just having all be verbal and nothing in writing, it's important to get a confirmation of what was said in writing. Does that make sense?
Chris, that does make sense. I personally would still like to see a request file because that's the formal process that allows us to make a determination. But I'll go with whatever everyone wants to do. But I agree we need to have, if Grace wants to talk to Mia, that's fine, but then Mia has to communicate back to the commission that she's changed her mind, and, and explain why. So.
Can I say something? Sandy LaJoy here.
Yep.
Is there any possibility of Grace filing her NOI and proceeding with her project at the same time?
Mary, what's your thought?
Well, I don't know if there's, a lot of the project is outside the buffer zone. So if they can get started on the stuff that's outside the buffer zone, I think there's a potential for getting started. But that we would want to, the stuff that involves the stream, if that could be wait till last, because a lot of it is outside the buffer zone.
I mean, we all know that she has our approval. She has the SVT approval. The DEP is looking for this paper trail. I don't know. I just like to work with her as best we possibly can.
I'm not sure we can officially authorize that, but if she wants to go ahead and do that without
quote unquote at her own risk.
Right.
Okay,
I
I will.
We should endorse it, or one way or the other.
So
I
at
will.
this, oh, go ahead.
No, I said I will plan on speaking with Mia directly to see if she had questions or honestly what the interpretation of agricultural use is, because if her interpretation is what we're going by far, to me, it is the strictest interpretation of what land and agricultural use is also. And, if any precedent on any other farm that I know of that has built a pond or, yeah, this would be just my very bad luck to reach her on a day where this is the interpretation of what agricultural use is. And I apologize if my tone is not the best. I'm just very, very frustrated. And, this has been a great need of mine, as you guys know, for many seasons now. And just the thought of going through another season with no water, honestly, it's like, especially how crazy the weather is just, a little anxiety provoking to the nth degree. And I'm sorry if my tone is not the best. It's just, this is like something that is very critical and crucial for the farm. Like emergency.
Well, Grace, we definitely understand that. And I would greatly appreciate if you talk to Mia as soon as possible and follow up that conversation with an email to her, that can also be copied to us. And then we can move forward to help you out the best we can.
All right.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, just like a couple things. I mean, Chris, just to clarify, we want an email from Mia directly. As if she changes her opinion, we need a communication directly from her. And the other thing I'd like to say is, Mary, could you make sure that Mia has the near map imagery of the area in question, and also the wetland delineation for the map that is for the property that is south of Five Forks Farm, so she understands that there's BVW associated with that stream beyond the property boundary. Just want to make sure she's got all the information.
Yeah, I may not. I'm not sure if I have my near map login with me. I might. I might have to wait till next week. Hopefully, I can certainly do the other stuff.
I can send you both of those things, email,
Okay.
so you can forward it to Mia, or if you want, I can send it to Mia and then copy.
No, I can get it to her.
Okay. Okay.
And
I think so. That's the kind of information. If we did a request for determination, people would be reviewing this stuff. And since it seems to be the consensus of the commission, do this informally. I personally just want Mia to have all the information that we can think of that might inform her decision.
whatever we send to Mia, we also should make sure Grace gets that as well, and the entire commission.
Yeah, can you please include me on any of those as well? This is Kristen. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point? And thank you, Grace, for hanging in there and talking to Mia as soon as possible, so that way we can move forward now.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll put Five Forks Farms on our agenda for our next meeting at 7 o'clock for discussion. So our next meeting is on the, if I can see this, the second Wednesday in March. So that's 8 o'clock. So that said, we can move on to our next hearing, which is a request for determination for 117 Hopkinton Road for the removal of trees. Now, do we have the RDA to read?
Would you like me to read the notice, Chris?
Yes, please.
Okay. Notice is hereby given with the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public meeting on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 at 7:15. A request for determination of applicability filed by Gregory Malloy for the removal of trees at 117 Hopkinton Road. All interested parties are invited to participate.
Okay, so thank you. Mr. Malloy, or your engineer, can we hear about your tree removal?
Yes. So we are trying to remove several trees on the south-facing side of our house so that we can install some solar panels. We signed the contract with the solar company. They told us we will be minimally efficient with the solar panels, and the pines that we want to remove from the rear of our house would improve the efficiency of the solar panels.
Okay, Mary, what is your
Yeah, I asked Greg to do a little schematic of the work he's planning on doing. And these are just trees that are within 30 feet of the wetland. And in one case, there's one tree that is within the wetland, but it's only 2 feet within the border. It's a very large white pine, 80-inch circumference, which it could be considered a hazard tree because if it fell towards the house, it would probably hit the house. So it's, I believe, I counted 8 or 9 trees that are within, besides this tree, within 30 feet from the line. And I have a few pictures. So this is the near map imagery, and it shows his current house. You can see the roof is shaded. You can see the trees surrounding his property. And this is approximate, but I kind of sketched in the area of trees to be removed. This area is, some of these are not within the 30 feet, and most of these are not within the 30 feet. The ones that are within the 30 feet are kind of right in this section right here. And then here's some pictures. This is the edge of his lawn. He's got a bound like right in here. These trees are within 30 feet. This one's kind of looking back into the wetland. The red arrow points at the one white pine that is within the wetland, a closer tree. This is just kind of a scan showing the yard area, the wetlands off to the right. And this is looking up. You can see the tops of the trees. So a lot of these in the foreground are slated to be removed. And let's see. So I guess the main concern here is, loss of shading in the wetland area. I think it just needed the commission to look at it. I wasn't comfortable, approving all these trees to be removed by myself. So.
Mary.
Would it make sense to replace any of those larger trees with some, something smaller that wouldn't grow up that high, that might just, provide some of the benefits of having a tree there to hold the ground in place and do, if there's any erosion issues or something like that?
Yeah, the buffer zone is for the most part, there's shrubs in there as well. I think you could maybe do a few plantings in there, and that might be nice. And I know I was talking with Greg, I believe, they want to make their property look nice. And certainly I think I even suggested, maybe some smaller trees like a dogwood or something that wouldn't grow so tall. You could put on the edge. Yeah, that could be a benefit here. So that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, that was something that Mary and I definitely discussed. I guess I didn't understand when we spoke, Mary, that it would go in the same spot that the trees already are. I thought I was looking at other areas on my property to replace the amount of trees I took down. But so just let me know if you want me to replace them in the same spot or just anywhere on the property.
Yeah, that's something the commission can give their input on. Yeah, certainly putting a few in that no disturb area might be a good idea.
Okay.
I think one thought is placing some vegetation in areas where the trees have been removed to reduce the possibility of erosion. Any other comments from the commission? Any comments from Mr. Malloy?
Nope, nothing further.
Since we've had a recommendation for some replacement trees, you guys want to give a number, or shall I just tell them what I think?
We would definitely rely on your opinion, Mary.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission or people attending the meeting? So with that said, Mary, would you feel comfortable with preparing a proposal to have replacement trees or vegetation on the property?
Sure.
Okay. So, Mr. Malloy, would you like to close your hearing and look at Mary's proposal to have some vegetation on your property to mitigate the removal of those trees?
Yeah, they sound a little choppy, but yes, I think I agree.
Okay, so with the commission, we would need to vote to close the RDA and have Mary work on the determination at our next meeting. So let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I, and if possible, native, if the new plantings could be native, that would be great.
And do we need a second on that motion?
Well, second.
Thank you.
Retrofit second, yes.
And David, are you going to weigh in on this one?
Yes, I was, Chris. I said I as well.
Thank you. So that's a unanimous vote of the commission to have Mary work on the determination of this project, and we'll review that at our next meeting. And can Mr. Malloy get started at his own?
Moving the trees, yes.
Okay.
I can begin removing the trees. Is that what you said, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And that would be at your own risk, because the next part would be replacing the trees with the other vegetation as Mary prescribes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you guys are all set. And at 7:30, we had Lynn Hardy talking about Earth Day.
Hi, thanks for having me through the chair. I just wanted to come and talk to you about Earth Day. I appreciate how conservation has always supported and helped out, helped with the advertising, getting the word out about Earth Day. So I have a website recently redesigned from information about Earth Day. I wanted to just show all of you. I know in years past, you all have put out information about Earth Day, added it to your website and Facebook page, which I really appreciate. And so any input. So if it would be all right through the chair, I'd like to just, Mary has that information, just quickly go through it. We've had some changes for locations to pick up bags and so forth this year. Okay, so I just, I gave some information, Earth.org, where we usually register and keep Massachusetts beautiful. This year's theme is invest in our planet, so invest in our town. So it's still going to be the kickoff event on April 22nd. However, where we've run a week-long event in conjunction with Mendon, I'll have the bag, just the bag pickups will be located at the town hall starting April 17th, and then the in-person kickoff event on Earth Day itself, April 22nd, where I'll sign people up. They can sign the waiver through the sign up here button that we have. It's all the streets in town uploaded that you can pick. And I'm just trying to get, I guess I need a URL. I had somebody help me design this website, a URL for the just
Lynn, you're cutting out. I'm not catching a lot of what you're saying. Could you repeat your last few sentences?
I was just saying that through the sign, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. through the sign where it says sign up here. If you click through that button, uploaded is all the streets like there was before. And so you start signing up. And as you sign up through this, it brings you to a button that when you agree to this, the waiver is embedded, which I really haven't had before. I've had the waiver that everybody just, signed up, signed when they came and signed up with me in person, because in the last couple of years, Blackstone Heritage Corridor hasn't been able to do this in conjunction with us. So, I'm adding these things in. So I just appreciate that if any of you have a chance to look through this, not going to go live with it, adding it to Mendon's site just yet. But yeah, any suggestions that, you might have, anything I would have forgotten. I did add in at the end some safety tips. You can see at the end, directions. I thanked everybody. And then just some basic safety tips. I cut them down somewhat. I think they're all pretty common sense. If we're handing out gloves and pickers, and we have the trash bags, and hopefully I had spoken to Dennis and we're going to be able to get some of the vests. So we've got the protective gear in stock to hand out to people. So, yeah, I think that kind of covers it. The only change is, like I said, we're going to use the town hall as a pickup location to get the bags ahead of time and up to May 1st. And let's see. I input on just looking for any input for any areas that might need special attention, that I can send any of the community groups to, and anything you think I might have missed that I could add to the website. I appreciate it. Appreciate all your help as always. So thank you.
Do we have any comments from the commission?
I just want to point out that Lynn has been working tirelessly for the last few years to make this happen pretty much solo. And I'm really, you deserve a round of applause. And thank you for doing this again and getting the supportive community entities like the DPW to help out. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. And I did forget one thing to mention. If any, I know conservation, some of you are part of other groups as well. If anybody would like to join me with their table on any, environmental subjects at the VFW that day, please do come on down on April 22nd.
Thank you, Lynn. That's excellent. We do appreciate your efforts. And anything we can do to help out would be.
Well, any input I can get from you, I'd appreciate. And if I can send you, my link to add to your, to one of your pages, I will be making sure I get it through the town manager to get it set up on the Upton website as well. But thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And Alan, before Lynn goes, can we put any of that on the Conservation Commission's webpage?
Yeah, I can, whatever information you want, I can put a link to Lynn's page there, a paragraph. So if Lynn sends me a paragraph and a link to her page, I can put it up on our site, no problem.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Lynn, if you were to forward all of that to the commission, that would get to Alan, who takes care of our webpage.
Okay, thank you. When I finish, it's in draft form right now. When I finish it, I'll get it over to Mary. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, at this point, we should probably go back up to the administrator's report, Mary.
All right. It has been quiet mainly because I haven't been there. I think, let me just find my report. Yeah, the only thing to really highlight, I did a building permit sign off, 64 Lackey Street. Doing a very large kind of equestrian project, putting in a barn and a riding arena. Very far away from the wetlands, but I am asking them to do an erosion and sedimentation control permit for that. And 10 Blueberry Lane's putting in a pool, but they're well away from the wetland. So that is mainly it. We will talk about National Grid, I believe, later on. They had a question. And that's pretty much it for the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mary. Now, administrative report.
We do have some bills to pay, the newspaper bill, and I think there's another one. It's in the packet. I can't remember, but we need to pay them. I guess I should look it up, see what it is in the packet.
We have a motion to pay our bills.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Aye. Candy, aye.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye. And while we're on the topic of expenditures, I would like to request that I won't be getting reimbursement. This is going on the town credit card, which I guess ends up in our when the bookkeeping gets done, ends up in our column. But I'd like to attend the MACC conference this year, so I just want to make sure that it's okay for $150 to do that. So I guess I'm looking for a motion to okay that, and
I make a motion to authorize payment of the MACC conferences for any commissioner who wants to attend, and Mary. And Mary, just friendly amendment. What about our new staffer? Would she benefit from attending MACC?
Oh, she probably would.
So I'll just amend it to say and
Yeah.
to any commission members and staff.
Yeah, I don't think she's starting until it's mostly over, though.
Oh.
But maybe I'll get the links to the recordings for the sessions I attend. And, we can have her do, because the whole month of March is the fundamentals unit. She might be interested in doing some of those. And those, I think, are not just during the conference.
and if she is interested, it might be worth making her a member, because if she's doing more than one or two, then it would be worth the expense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just found my the other bill, and this is actually a question. I have been submitting mileage and just kind of submitting it and not knowing what account they pulled it out of. And finally, Kenny's like, Mary, you got to give me a voucher for this. But it took him a few months to tell me that. And so that was one of the things to approve was mileage. Do you guys remember where we were pulling mileage from? Shall I just pull it from? It seems to me like I could potentially pull it from the salary and wages account because there's money in there, or should it just come out of the general expenses?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was good. gonna say
I
the
just
same
flipped a
thing.
coin and it came general expenses. So
Okay, all right. That's not
um,
usually very much money. It's like $20 a month.
Think we can spring for that?
Yeah.
so can I ask? There is a motion that was made. Chris, could you ask for a second?
For a second.
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 Okay, let's do a voice vote. And the motion was to pay our bills and have any member of the commission or staff to be able to attend the MACC conference and get reimbursed for that. So we have a motion and a second. So let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David,
Sandy, I.
Like
Marcella, I. And talk to Denise. She's got the credit card, and it's a whole lot easier than having to, get reimbursed. It just goes directly to the town.
Okay, now do we have a unanimous vote of the commission? So that's good for us paying our bills and having people attend the meeting. And with that said, financial updates. Mary, is that all taken care of?
I did not do one this month I didn't do one this week. So
We'll
there's
put that-
still money in the accounts though, because as I pay the bills, I always write them in. So I just didn't do the summary for you guys.
Okay. Now, Alan, what about the website?
No new updates, but certainly I'll be able to update the Earth Day stuff when I get it from Lynn.
Okay, thank you. And Open Space Committee.
I have no updates for this meeting.
Thank you. Land Stewardship Committee.
No updates from us either.
Excellent. And new items, we had water withdrawal from Pratt Pond, Kiwanis Beach. That was for National Grid.
Yeah, so National Grid, as we know, is doing maintenance work, and they're doing, I believe she said, part of it is geotechnical borings, and they need water for that. So they're asking permission to get approximately one swimming pool truck full of water from Pratt Pond with no impacts to land underwater or bank. They do plan on coming in at Kiwanis Beach and getting the water from there. They just wanted an okay from the Concom to do that. I talked to the fire chief and I asked him where he gets his water, and he goes and gets water for fires all the time from Pratt Pond or any nearby body of water that he can find.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have any discussion from the commission?
Is that common practice?
For the fire chief,
Yeah.
apparently. In fact, he was telling me a lot of interesting stories about people actually making a business of filling pool trucks and selling their water to power companies. So and someone got stopped for doing that. At any rate, but I did look it up. At the volume we're talking about here, one truckload, they would fall well under that threshold of having to report it.
Thank you. Any other commission discussion?
And Mary, they would just come in right at the beach in Pratt Pond, not through the.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Can we charge them?
I know.
It's our water, damn it. They're going to draw that down and I won't be able to swim. What's
The truckload. That's their limit. And they're doing it soon. So it's this time of year as opposed to summer. I think within the next few weeks.
Any other discussion from the commission? Mary, do you need a letter from us or just a note in our meeting minutes?
It was a phone call. So, yeah, no, I think we're okay. I think I provisionally gave her permission with the understanding that you guys were going to talk about it, and if you had major concerns, I would let them know.
So with that said, how about MACC conference? We already talked about that. And then we've 53 George Hall Road. Graph.
Oh, yes. Well, it sounds like for that one, I might not be the best person to talk about it, but I do vaguely remember this also. So the person, the owner, and I guess I should pull up the things so you guys can look at it and refresh your memory. They have again reached out to us asking for permission, or asking us to sell them the land, which would give them access to their property. And I'm trying to think if there's a map of it. Doesn't seem to be. I'll see if I can pull it up. At any rate, I don't know if Joe's still on, or Mike seemed to have the history of this pretty well, but they've asked us for this before, and I guess we denied it, and there were lots of reasons behind it. But they were reaching out again in hopes to purchase the land. And Joe basically said he thought that there were a lot of hurdles to it in his email.
As far as I'm concerned, this was closed back then. I'm not willing to reconsider.
Yeah.
Any other discussion from the commission?
I agree with Marcella. I may try, if people want to see, I might be able to share the imagery, although I'm actually not seeing no. If anyone wants to see it, I can share it. The other thing, there is a potential encroachment that Joe noted that we probably should talk a little bit about. That's independent of the Chase issue. I'm going to try to share this if there's no objection. So.
While you're doing that, Mike, I have a question. They want to purchase that strip that we own that may have been encroached upon. Does their property behind actually border our property, Warren Brook watershed? Does their property border that?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And it's actually a little bit complicated. Bill could speak to this, but
Yes,
their parcel actually goes into Upton.
Well, no, it doesn't anymore because they donated the land in Upton to Grafton.
But,
okay,
but
my thought was
that's what. But did Grafton accept it, Bill? I thought.
Well, no, they haven't accepted it yet.
Yeah, so
they never
so
really
it's a mess.
considered it. Yeah,
Mess.
Okay, because my thought was maybe we could do some type of a swap and increase the land for Warren Brook, you know, by having them give us parts of the property that borders it or something. Because it looks like it's, from the stuff I saw, if it was accurate, you know, they truly encroached upon the property in a big way, if that's accurate.
Can you guys see the imagery?
Yep.
Good. Okay. So here's the strip. Can you see this? The cursor?
Yes.
Yep.
This is the Chase property, and then the town line shows here, but it may not really be the town line. The town line might be more like over here, a little bit. So that's Chase, and I don't know the whole history of this, but I think, to the truth, when Chase developed these 2 frontage lots or 3 frontage lots way back when, you know, as part of that planning process in Grafton, this became a non-buildable lot. It says right on the recorded plan that this lot is non-buildable. But that hasn't stopped them from trying to gain access to it. Back in 2008, we went through this with them. Some of us may remember So that's that. But then the potential encroachment is right here. In 2008, some of us walked out there and we were in this backyard, and I took some photos. I think Marcella has a better memory of this than I do, but there might have been a small encroachment onto the town strip, but we don't believe there was a structure like the pool on it. But I suggest we go back out there and take another look at some point to see. If I remember right, there was a survey rod right at this corner right here.
Yeah, it looks like now they've got a little shed or something on the town property that wasn't there before. And the pool area seems to have become more expanded. I remember the pool was really close to the boundary, but it wasn't across the boundary. But it looks like there's more going on there now than there was back then. And there was some encroachment. They were putting yard waste onto the town land, and they were the guy we talked to seemed very open to removing the yard waste and doing some plantings in the areas that were lawn, but that doesn't look like it's happening. So we need to get on that. If he's not willing to, to live up to his word from, I don't know how many years ago now, then, we should, I don't know if we can impose a fine or what, but that is an obvious encroachment.
Yeah, I mean, worst case, we'd maybe put a little fence or something up there just to remind them where the boundary is. But it's possible. I mean, this near map imagery, the town parcel maps, they can shift a little bit. Shouldn't rely on these. Again, the thing to do is go out there and try to find this survey marker if it still exists there, and see, where it is and how it relates to the development. I wouldn't be surprised though, Marcel, if the shed's in the town land.
It looks
the pool is, but
yeah.
Surprised if the shed is. So.
But there looks like there's some building around. It seems like there's more surrounding the pool than there was before. That looks like there's like more of a deck area, maybe a fence that extends into the town land. It may not extend far, but that's not a permitted use on that land. So we got to act on it.
Yeah, Joe flagged it, so I think we owe him a report.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of you read what Joe wrote, but he did spell out some of the concerns about transferring or selling the strip, and it's a big to do. It's not like we can just trade land and have it benefit Warrenbrook in some other way. It's it's a legislative thing, it's a town vote thing, and it's kind of a big deal.
Any other discussion at this point?
Can we give him an enforcement order to get that shed off the town property?
I think we should.
Yeah,
we should definitely confirm first
to let him know. Yeah. To show us the boundaries, we should put in some sort of, like, who just said, a fence or bounds or.
Yeah, so
I wish it would be easy to sell them the property because clearly they want it.
I'm not sure that we could officially do an enforcement order unless there was a wetland infraction.
Yeah.
And it's also in Grafton.
I know.
So I think the first thing to do is just go out there, see exactly how bad the encroachment is, and then try to work with the homeowner.
He was very nice about it before. From what I understand, it's the same homeowner, so let's hope he's willing to work with us again.
And maybe the lines are off, like said. Let's hope the lines are rough.
Well,
Yeah.
the shed is sort of, if they're off, they're way off. And that shed, I don't remember it being there before. So that's definitely an issue.
Now, this is Chris. I wonder what our position is since this is in Grafton.
What was that? I didn't catch it.
What is our ability to act on this because it's in Grafton?
Well, we own the land, right? So that would give us authority to, and I don't know if the town has any special, I'm not sure that the town has special authority since it's town land to involve, but yeah, it would count as trespassing. You know, in Webster, we had a case where someone had expanded their backyard into town land, and it was actually the neighbor who was upset about it. So yeah, they actually, because the property was for sale, as part of the deal, they actually did re-fence, move their fence back and let the land go alone. So yeah, there was a fence involved in that one.
Do we have any standing if it's in Grafton? Even though we own it.
I think we have some standing because we own the land, but as a town, we probably don't have standing, but we would as a landowner, I guess.
And I guess the commission gets involved because it's under our care and custody. So it's, you know, it may not be a wetlands issue, but it's land that we control.
Maybe go out and clean out our shed.
Yeah, and we've got some stuff we can store there. We know we could use a shed.
There you go.
Put a flatbed under it and take it to the recreation department.
There you go.
Now, if it's chapter land, how does that impact anything?
So how many years has he been getting away with this?
Well, we talked to him around the time that the whole Chase thing came up last time, because that's how we noticed that there was an encroachment. And what was that, like 2008, 2009? A while back.
Right. So that's a long time, and he's been out there using the land and nobody's said anything about it. So he'll listen to us and he'll say, sure, okay, and he'll just continue.
Well, then we'll fine him.
Yeah, we have to figure out what we can do.
Well, do we have any recourse here for encroachments?
Issue an enforcement order.
Town council.
Do ourselves on our own property.
Town
Wait a minute,
council.
how's that gonna work?
Mike, what do you think about town council?
Well, I think the first thing to do is just to see what's going on there and try to work with the guy. And if, you know, there's a whole bunch of disturbance on town land and he's resistant, then we talk to Joe and you know, potentially get town council involved. You can write a very, you know, angry letter to the homeowner. So.
Well, I'm happy to work with him. He seemed really nice about it last time, and it seemed like an honest mistake. But at this point, it doesn't look too honest. It looks like he knew.
Another honest mistake. Well, sorry. So sorry, officer. I won't do that again.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, what's our consensus?
Well, as far as the encroachment goes, I think we should just do what Mike suggested, is first of all confirm what the boundary lines there are. And if it does turn out that there's an encroachment, approach the homeowner in person, or we can write him a letter and ask him to come before the commission or whatever. But I wouldn't want to, you know, wouldn't want to take it to legal extremes until we have to.
Okay, so at this point, am I hearing that we should confirm where the encroachment is before a letter is written and town council is involved?
That would be my suggestion, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So
Now, I have a question. Is the homeowner related to the Chases, or is it a different people?
Different people,
Okay.
unless something has changed in the last whatever number of years.
So Teresa of us visit to investigate the encroachment.
I can do that, or it'd probably be good to have people who have been there before, though.
You know, Bill and I walked that strip not that long ago, and it's probably something we could just informally take a look at, maybe take some pictures, see if we can find the boundary. I mean, if you don't want to, Bill, I'm not going to volunteer you. I'm happy to do that, but if you want to come along and go bushwhacking with me, I will happily accept your participation.
If you can let me know when you're doing that, if I have the time, I would join you also.
Oh, sure. Great. Yeah, anybody's.
Yeah, I would too. Just set it up. And the only thing I would just recommend is no one goes there alone. You don't want to get in a confrontation with
Right.
the homeowner. So if you go, let's just make sure there's at least 2 or 3 of us.
Yeah, I'll just send out
And
an email.
if you take me, you can all run faster than me. So it's a good reason to have me along.
Is there a particular time that works better for people, or I can try to work around that. If Bill is gonna come along, it would have to be after 4 o'clock or so on a weekday. But aside from that, and Bill, I don't want to speak for you. please say so if you don't want anything to do with this.
No, I already responded that I'm be happy to go along.
So maybe if we were to do this after 4 on a weekday, does that work for Tom and Mike, or should we schedule something for a weekend?
That could work for me. It just, depends. Like just name the time and day. I have stuff, but generally speaking, I can generally make that.
Okay. So.
Me too. Let's try to pick a time when there's no snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a few weeks away if we get some snow, and it's going to have to melt.
Okay. But, yeah, anybody else is welcome to. I'll just send out a general email.
Oh, that's good. Good. I like to go, but I can't usually make it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can walk in from George Hill Road.
Yeah, it's a short walk from there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on George Hill Road, so.
Yeah.
So with that said, should we put that in with our and keep following up with it?
Yeah, if we can discuss it next time, if we've seen what's going on there, then that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anything under ongoing items?
I have one item. I don't think it's on the ongoing list anymore, but it's the forest management plans that we did for Mechanic Street and Stephens. I need to submit them to Joe, town manager, for his signature as owner. Once he signs them, then John Clark signs them, and then we can submit them to the DCR, and after DCR approves it, we get reimbursed. So I'm just not sure if we ever voted to accept those forest management plans or not, as a commission. Before I asked Joe to sign, I wanted to make sure that the commission, is in approval of those two plans.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the forest management plans as Mike described.
So
I'll be
moved.
honest with you, I haven't had a chance to look at them thoroughly, so I'm gonna abstain because I'd rather make a decision after I see them.
Okay.
We could postpone this for 2 weeks. We just have to, get reimbursed by the end of the fiscal year, which is like the end of June. So we have time.
Well, I'm sure it's not. I'm probably not gonna vote against anything. I just want to know what I'm voting on. So if you guys want to go ahead and vote and get the reimbursement, which would be fine, I just want to explain why I might not vote. So.
Mike, could you send around the forest management plan information?
They were in a packet a couple of meetings ago, I think. I'm not sure exactly what meeting, but they were on the agenda in a packet way back, but we didn't talk about it in this way at that time.
For those of you who have had a chance to look at them, does it look, do things look okay? Is there anything that jumps out as maybe might be in disagreement with or whatever?
They were on the January 8th packet, and I can share them if you guys want to look at them, but they're, not just one page.
Yeah, it's a lot to slog through, so.
Yeah.
Which is why I have to slog through it.
Yeah, I think they checked the box. I wish there'd been maybe some more detail in, especially the Steffens one. I think we checked the box.
This one's Steffens. Yeah, you may want to take more time to read through how much clearing they're planning for each stand, etc. So,
So at this point, do we have enough information to have Joe sign up on this? Or do we need to put it on our next meeting?
You know, why don't we put it on the agenda for 2 weeks, next meeting? That way it's actually, this isn't even an agenda item on the current agenda, I don't think, so.
Okay, I'll put it on for the new item.
Yeah.
Or next agenda.
And they'll give people a chance to look at it, and if there's any comments, I think, if there's any comments, maybe John would be willing to make some changes if people think there's need.
What if we put this on for our 7:15?
oh, for next meeting, Chris?
Yep.
Next meeting, I have 7:15 Robertson family and 8 o'clock Governor's Landing.
Okay. But if we put it on for 7:30. And we had at 7 o'clock, 5 Fork Farm. So we have 7 o'clock, 5 Fork Farm, 7:15 Robinson family, or 7. And then 7:30, we have the forest management plan. And then 8 o'clock, the Governor's Landing. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. Because of giving it a time on our next meeting, then it won't fall through the cracks.
That's right.
So, any other comments or questions?
We do have a document to approve, the 91 Glen Ave determination. I had sent that out last week, I believe, and really there were very few conditions on this project. It didn't really need erosion controls. I just have a final inspection when they're done to make sure that there's no impacts. And if you want, I can pull it up on the screen.
Yes.
Sorry, being slow here. Just installation of a deck, and then it was a -3, and just final inspection. And 6, not subject to review. People ready to authorize me issuing that?
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, so we can do a voice vote to authorize Mary to issue major determination.
So moved.
Do a second.
Second,
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Sandy,
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
With Alan, can I hear from you?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay, so we have a unanimous vote from the commission to issue this negative determination. Thank you, Mary, for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other paperwork?
Nope.
Hearing none, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a
Second.
Let's do voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
With that said, we have a unanimous vote of the commission to adjourn our meeting.
Good night, everybody.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.